Welcome to the Hypervoice. I am your host, Stephen Morioka, and today I am joined by the marvelous Alex Underhill.
Hello there, Stephen.
And we have a special guest from overseas, but not so overseas at the moment, Nimiel Katipon.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Nimiel. So, for some people who need some background on you, you are from the Philippines, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And currently, Nimiel is over here in America on... Explain to everyone why you're here again?
Oh, I'm interning, in Illinois. I'm here until December. So, I'll get some CVs from here before I go.
Very cool. So, Nimiel's here on an internship in the Chicago area, and for some more information on him, he actually made it through day one of Worlds this past August in 2016, going 6-0 on day one, and then finished in 35th place on day two of Worlds, going 4-3. So, Nimiel, how was Worlds for you?
Oh, Worlds was a ton of fun, but it's really tiring at the same time. Because, so background, two of us went to the Worlds, but we didn't share rooms because I went with my dad because I went to San Francisco and then I went to Chicago for the internship. So my dad went with me. So he didn't know I was going to Worlds. Fun fact, we were supposed to go straight to Chicago, but I said, can we go to San Francisco? I'm going to meet up with some people. And then, he didn't know that I was going to World. So, I had to take the bus, from, my uncle's house to the World. So, it's maybe 40 minutes of travel time. So, that plus, the time difference made it really hard for me to adjust. I was really, I was so sleepy at Worlds. But I think the adrenaline just kept me going, and then I crashed when I got home.
Wow, that's a real interesting story. That your Worlds trip was such a complicated adventure. Just getting there in general, probably pretty exhausting.
Yeah. Fun fact: we don't have sanctioned events in the Philippines, so I had to get one through outside the country. So I flew to Singapore, and my parents didn't know why I flew to Singapore. So I snuck out the country to get points. That's how pathetic my life is.
Well, it's hardcore for Pokemon players, but what event did you go to play in Singapore?
Singapore Nationals. So the bar for Asia Pacific is really low. So all you had to do was get top 32 in Worlds. So I got top 32. I didn't even cut Worlds. Singapore Nationals.
Was that your first major event then?
That was my first event period, my first sanctioned event.
Okay. Did you make it to any events between Singapore Nationals and Worlds, or was that your only event?
No, that was my only event. Worlds was my second event. Yeah, so I got pure 100% of my points on Singapore Nationals, and then I just went to Worlds.
Well, hey, that's very cool. It's very impressive that you made day two of Worlds, as your second event, and during your first season too, obviously. Yeah,
I played a bit VGC 15, and then once I got out of school, I had more time for 16. So that's when I really took it seriously. And that's when I decided I should go out with some people and go out of the country to get some points and actually compete.
That is a very neat story. And I know you mentioned earlier how you don't have sanctioned events in the Philippines. We'll get to that very shortly. But first, we just want to quickly talk about we had a Premier Challenge here in the Chicago area, which is where I first met Nimiel. So a few days ago, this happened on October 22nd. And since you two were in the finals, why don't you guys break down, kind of the event in general? And Nimiel, what was it like coming to your first event here in America, or coming to a Premier Challenge in America here?
Yeah, it was really fun actually. So the event was around 35 minutes away from the house that I'm staying in. So I didn't know anybody, and I don't want to ask like my uncle to drive me all the way there. So I just took an Uber. Yeah. Yeah. So it's my, yeah. So I took the Uber to the PC. So I can't find the venue at first. I don't think anybody found the venue like quick. Because yeah, I was really confused.
That was me
Drivers are like,
too.
"Oh, you're here.
You're not alone.
You're here." We're like, "Where?" Like, "Here."
Yep.
Where? I don't. Yeah. Like,
Well, you're not wrong because it was next to a Walmart and it didn't have a sign of the venue didn't have a sign for it, a big letters or anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
that happens sometimes with these game stores. Is they just, I don't know, they just never put up a sign, and so you have to like look in the windows to look for like either the card shop or video game shop, whatever you're playing at. Sometimes it can be a bit inconvenient.
Like I didn't even know that you had game shops like that. Because so in the Philippines we don't have sanctioned events, but we do have like unofficial ones. We pay entrance fees and get some like mini prizes.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so we do it just for fun. So yeah, we uh hold it in a mall, like we rent a space out, and then yeah, that's where we do it. So I didn't know like that it was a thing that there's like game stores like who rent out space for specifically for video games or card games. Yeah, so the general impression like of the Premier Challenge was everybody was friendly, and yeah, and I guess I was shocked like that there were like elder people playing. Like people with like actual families. Yeah, that was what stood out to me the most.
It's really cool how there's such a wide variety of people that play VGC, and yeah, like you mentioned, family there. I'm guessing that you might be referring to Steven and his mom are actually at the Premier Challenge with us. And that's one thing that I always look forward to. I had to do a lot of convincing to get Steven to come out to this Premier Challenge.
This is
But-
true.
But he did end up coming out, and I think it was worth it in the end for him. And I always love seeing Steven's mom, and so does my girlfriend. So, like, that's always totally worth it for us. And it's just, it was a lot of work, though, to convince Steven to go.
Yeah, I actually played your mom first round of Swiss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like so when I saw the team preview, okay, I'm glad I didn't bring my Worlds team or like,
Oh, really?
variant of that, because I was using dual primal. She had Veldon and Perota, and like my team did not like facing that.
I guess it's a good thing that you decided to change it up a little bit and move on from the Worlds team, because I know that you've used Double Primal almost exclusively this season, and so
Yeah,
you decided to
yeah.
shake it up for this Premier Challenge.
Yeah, because I heard from Diana that like she played 4 Eveltas in Swiss. So yeah, I don't want to play against that. Like my team does not do well. So yeah, I went with X-Ray. I got the face spin off of a friend. So
Let's back up one step here, and so it makes sense why you didn't choose double or dual primals with all the Yveltal, supposedly running around, and I guess we both know because Alex beat both of us on his way to winning this one with his Yveltal on his team. But
oh, he didn't even bring it against me.
oh, well, I mean it was still on the team, so
Yeah, Yveltal was a big part in my matchup versus Steven, but there's no real reason to bring it against Nemiel's team, because basically it's just a matchup of who can get up their Xerneas faster and then just beat the rest of the team, because that was if anybody caught finals, you would see how ridiculous the matchup was, but and how it was very out of control, kind of something that we both realized in the finals. But we also played each other in Swiss in round 3. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I don't.
Well, I see. There was an interesting aspect I guess I can mention. So during the week, I was practicing some, and I knew I had played Nemiel while practicing.
Yeah.
And so in the second game of our set, there came to a play where it was like I would say it was a 50-50 kind of play, and I made one move while we had practiced against each other online, and then in this game I switched it up, and it was a coin flip. It's really impossible to call correctly 100% of the time, but that was what decided basically the Swiss set.
Yeah, and you also revealed that his Talonflame didn't have Tailwind, and it had Brave Bird, Fair Blitz, Quick Guard, and Sword Stance?
Yes, those were the four. I think that was an interesting thing because at the end of game one, you asked me, like, why didn't you go for Tailwind there? And I was like, I thought I had it without Tailwind, and then I'm just like, no, I don't have, I mean, maybe I do have Tailwind, maybe I don't. Don't catch on to me.
Yeah, see, Alex is just playing it smart, trying to conserve his information there when he still needs to. This was game one, so you guys still had the rest of the match to finish out. But I remember at the beginning of the premiere challenge, I was talking trash to Alex, saying how he convinced me to go, and then he was going to regret it later because I was going to beat him at some point and then knock him out of the tournament. And
man, I forgot about this, but yeah.
He ended up beating me in semis, so that was kind of funny.
Yeah, we did have the Hypervoice casters match in top 4, which is very fun. Steven was using Wolf's team while I was using a Xerneas Yveltal team, and I think I had the maybe Pokemon advantage. Like, my team seemed to have a positive matchup because Yveltal and Xerneas is kind of hard for Steven to balance all at once, but a number of critical hits helped lead me to a victory.
Yeah, even if we ignore all those, it's difficult for me just because I'd never played with that team before either, so it's not like I knew what to do against an XY team.
Yeah, and my top 4 match finished early, and all I was thinking while waiting for my finals match was, please let Alex lose. I don't want to play this game. It's because it's basically coin flips at that point. We had Smeargle and Talonflame at the same speed, so yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, so in the finals, me and Namiel played each other, and we both had Scarf Smeargle and Quick Guard Talonflame with max speed, and they were both at the exact same speed stats, like you said, and so you realized that it was probably your best strategy to do that in the second game of our Swiss, so that's what you ended up doing, and I had to make all these correct calls just to have a chance to win. And so then in the first game of our finals, I tried not to do that lead because, but I did expect it from you. And I think you did lead that all 3 games, if I believe I'm correct. Yeah, I think you did. And I thought I had a way to beat it with Smeargle and Xerneas, but it ended up being more favorable for you. And so, after that, I kind of threw away all skill, and I was just like, alright, strategy is out the door now. We're just gonna be leading Smeargle and Talonflame every game, and so I did it in game 2, and I won a couple of speed ties and ended up winning, and then game 3, it was more speed ties and coin flip plays, and it was just a mess.
Yeah, that's what happens when you play Scarf Smeargle. It's a bunch of 50-50s.
Especially when we both have Quick Guard and Sword Stance, because, sometimes when you're using Scarf Smeargle next to Talonflame, your opponent knows not to fall for the Quick Guard, and so they'll take their sleep turns, and you wasted a turn Quick Guarding, so sometimes you like to get a little more aggressive and use Sword Stance and start boosting up and doing damage, but it can just lead to these coin flip plays that are very dangerous, and it's not a very consistent way to, go about things, but it's kind of nice to have that, last out if you have no other way to beat the opponent's team.
So it was a fun finals to watch. I stuck around to stay there and watch the finals.
It was not fun for us.
Yeah, I can imagine it wasn't that fun playing, with all those coin flip situations. But long story short, that's how the Premier Challenge ended. Alex ended up winning in 3 games, and the final result of that is that we did get some points from that, and I wanted to ask you guys, so the point payout was 20-14-10, so that's first, second, top 4 respectively. How are you guys feeling so far with the new, championship point payout system? Are you guys feeling good about it? Do you feel slighted? Do you wish you had more points? Do you like your progression into qualifying for Worlds?
Well, I think it's like good that Premier Challenges are as low as they are, probably because then, it puts more emphasis on the big events, and especially like in areas where there aren't as many Premier Challenges, they won't be as hurt for not being able to attend those events, and also for the people that go to these smaller Premier Challenges and are able to grind up 6 wins over the course of the season very easily. They don't have as much of an advantage because of that. So, negating the effects of Premier Challenges is probably for the best, but, it feels like I had to put like quite a bit of work in, at least at the Chicago PCs, just to get 20 championship points. And so, if I do a similar performance at regionals, and then I get like to the top cut, I would get a whole lot more points. But I guess the competition is bound to be stronger there. But I think overall, yeah, having Premier Challenges with the payouts that they're at right now is a good thing.
Well, I don't know how to feel about this, because 20 points is not a lot. Like what? Because, well, for you guys, it's like 5%, or like how many is that? Like not even, like 4%, right?
Yeah, I think 20 is 4% out of an invite, 500 points total.
Yeah, because like for me, I only need 400 points because I'm from Asia Pacific, even though I'm getting the points here. Because there's no like limit as to where you can get the points. So, like what's the BFL for PCs?
It's an interesting thing this year, the way that the best finish limit for PCs works, because it's 2 per series, essentially. So for the fall series, it is 2, but then you can get 2 more in the spring, and then 2 more in the winter, and then 2 more in the spring. And so, if I were to go, I've already got 2 Premier Challenge results myself, so if I were to get another one that isn't above second place, I would not get championship points.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's scattered all throughout the season, but like the different, like I guess like it's for the better, because like last season, if we had sanctioned events in the Philippines, all I had to do was win 6 Premier Challenges and get 20 points from a regional or something, and I'm qualified for Worlds. And in Latin America, all you need to do is win 5 PCs and you're qualified for Worlds. Like, I know it's 150 for Latin America. So yeah, it's definitely a good change, but since the bar is higher, like, I don't know, like, if attending Premier Challenges is it even worth it if you're not winning, if that makes sense.
Right, and I see the perspective, or I see the angle you're coming from with that, is because, players in North America, they have this constant flow of Premier Challenges that they can attend, month to month, roughly. And you're coming from an area or a country that doesn't have any sanctioned events, period. So while it seems like a lot of these points are chump change to us, I think it's very significant for someone like you who's aiming to qualify for Worlds again next year.
Yeah.
So going on with that, how, these points are probably more significant for Nimiel, picking up points while he's here in America before he heads back to a bone dry region or a bone dry country without events. This will be important for him in qualifying for Worlds. But in terms of the actual payout of the events, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I didn't put in that much effort in training for the tournament, and I feel good about coming out with 10 points. Just making it to semifinals. We only had about 25 masters in that tournament, and it feels like the right payout, and it being so small. And like Alex, how you mentioned earlier, how it's not necessarily, they're not they're not very significant in terms of hindering other players who can't necessarily attend Premier Challenges, like other people in the Philippines who don't have sanctioned events, or any other region like that. And I guess let's shift our focus on our talk away from our points in our local tournament all the way over to across the ocean. And why don't we talk about Asia Pacific a little bit? And Nimiel, you know the region. You probably know your region better than we do. So why don't you start us off and just tell us what you know about Asia Pacific, where events are held, what it's going to look like for you come a few months.
Okay, so Asia Pacific is basically Australia, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. Like, so all the Asian countries minus Japan and South Korea. So, there's not a lot of players in the Asian countries. So, just to give you a perspective, there's only 114 masters in Singapore nationals, and that includes 12 of us who flew all the way to the Philippines, and like a couple of Malaysian and uh, Thailand players who flew out also. So maybe it's, yeah, maybe like half of the players there are from Singapore, and the rest either flew out or like, yeah, went to another country um to compete. So there's not a lot of players, and you can see that like in Worlds, like APAC wasn't well represented in the top cut of day two. So yeah, there's not. I don't think there's a lot of players, or if there are like VGC players, they're not going there to compete. Like not unlike in the US, where there's 400 players in nationals. So yeah, it's way bigger in the US and in Asia Pacific.
Do you think it's because of disparity of events and cost? Could those be issues?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of the reason why well, not I guess the general like interest or the support like that you guys get here isn't really what, like, we don't get the same thing in Asia Pacific. We don't have a lot of support. So you guys have stipends. Yeah, I think I heard you guys have stipends to go to nationals. Like, we don't even have that. We just like, so like, just to give you like a perspective again. So the entrance fee for Singapore nationals is $10, and I think you get a DS for winning Nats. Like, I think that's it. Like, and you get trophies, but we don't really get like money. So there's no incentive other than having fun to go there. Like, whereas in the US you get money, there's like actual incentive to play it seriously. Whereas like in Asia Pacific, you just go to have like fun. Like, you just do it for fun.
So yeah, this year at US Nationals, we did have, I believe, a $20 entry fee, and but the prizes at the top were a whole lot higher. I can't remember exactly how much Chase Liver got for first, but I know it's at least in the thousands. And so that's a lot more than just getting like a Nintendo 3DS or something like that. So yeah, like with the entry fees and the prize support is a whole lot bigger over here. And it's probably because of it's probably because the scene is a lot bigger, and so they can afford to do stuff like that. They can expect more people to come out. But if they did, show a little bit more prize support for the Asia Pacific countries, then, maybe you would see a boom in attendance. And who knows, with Sun and Moon, we might see a boom in attendance anyway, and that might spark the Pokemon Company to, start sending a bit more support there.
Yeah, and I just looked this up, what you just mentioned. It was $5,000 for first from U.S. Nationals.
Oh, wow. And we got the DS.
Yeah, that's quite a few DSs, I think. I believe that's 25, about.
Yeah, I think it's a DS or a Wii U. Like, either way, like, you probably have that if you're, yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah, we could probably talk all day about prize support and how packs and 3DSs are maybe not the greatest prizes to give to VGC players, but yeah.
So, Nimiel, I wanted to ask you about Singapore Nationals again. Were any players from Australia there? Did they fly over too?
I know Phil did last year, but I don't think there were any this year. But I know there's like a Spanish player. I don't know if he flew out or he was just there, like, or he was trying to pull out a villa. But I know he didn't cut, so he thought it was probably easy to get points in Singapore. But there, like, it's actually the level of players is actually really good. Like I lost round 1 and lost the first game of round 2. Like that's how. Like I mean, I could blame it to like bad luck and matches, but like bad matchups. But I think the general level of the players there was higher compared to maybe U.S. nationals. Like there's no in-game team in Singapore nationals, if that means anything.
Well, like you mentioned, that a lot of people do travel out to Singapore Nationals. You said, like, maybe 50% of the people there are from Singapore, and then a lot of them are traveling out. So the people that are traveling are most likely taking this thing seriously. And so, yeah, that would definitely increase the strength of the competition.
Yeah, so, and I had a really bad experience round 1. So, like, I didn't know, like, so just, again, that this was my first, like, tournament ever. So I went there and I just assumed that like nobody will cheat, nobody will screen peek. Oh, so that guy was apparently like notorious for screen peeking, and I like the guy like beside him told me after the game like, dude, like he was screen peeking at you the whole time. So
Wow.
so I didn't report it, so because there's no way to prove it. Like I'll just focus on like the game, and I just warned my friends about him. Like don't like try hide your DS from him. Like yeah, and he had a Groudon with no red orb, so it was a normal Groudon. So I thought at first it was like it had no item. At first I thought it was Scarf, like, but like he didn't have the red orb. Yeah, and like round 2, I lost game 1 to a guy with a Swirlix and a Regigigas. Like I don't like it's not even the evolved form. Like it's just a normal Swirlix.
Oh, like the not even. I think Slurpuff is what you're meaning. So
Yeah,
Swirlix.
like the pre-evolved of that. Like I lost game 1 to that. Like that's how bad I was. Like,
That's kind
that's
of
how
funny.
thrown off I was after.
I guess it could hold the a Violite and then use its ability. What is it? Sweet Veil that prevents
Yeah,
sleep.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sleep. Yeah, it's like the terrain. Like that's how I lost the first 3 games. Like I put so much preparation into this, but yeah, I might like well he had having Eveldon versus dual primals also helped, but I got so thrown off by the Regigigas because it survived like a double edge from Mens and a fire punch from an adamant Groudon.
Oh my
Like I
gosh.
didn't even know that was possible. Like, what I can't lose to this. Like not like I can't like drop from the single because it was 7 rounds of Swiss. So if I lost game 1, if I lost round 1, I probably don't have a chance of making cut if I lost round 2 as well. So I knew I had to win to even have a chance of cutting.
Well, that's good that even though you lost the first 3 games of the tournament, you were able to turn it around and turn it into a top 32 for yourself, which is great. Especially great for your first event because it netted you a Worlds Invite and you get to, keep playing. And it's great that you were able to, do decently at your first event so that, like it builds a little bit of confidence in yourself and keeps your interest in the game because, like, I don't know, some people, if they don't do well at their first tournament, they might be turned off of the game. So it's good to have a good first run.
I think obviously it worked for your confidence too, because you got to day 2 worlds and 4-3. That's just barely missing cut too.
Yeah, I lost like the last round, so I was 4-2, and then I lost a team preview. Like I couldn't do anything against this team. Oh, like besides, just to recap, like so I basically used my Nats team because well, it kind of worked, and I just made a few adjustments. Yeah, and I didn't. I stopped playing a few weeks before Worlds, and I guess the meta shifted. Like everybody was using Gengar. Like it's good all of a sudden. Yeah, I should have probably prepared more for that, but I just like I just lost interest in the like meta. Like I didn't know it was changing like a few weeks before Worlds. because it was the same thing. Like, so it's probably going to be the same thing. So, but yeah, it changed.
Yeah, that's usually a natural occurrence from every year. For that I've seen is there's always this very small but significant meta change right before Worlds, and it's there's always going to have that kind of impact. But I wanted to ask you, who did you play in that last round of Swiss?
I played Till, like the German, like the runner-up guy from Germany, Nats, like the one who lost to Arash in the finals.
Um,
Or I forgot. Like
was it Tobias? Is that it?
no, it's still. I forgot the last name, but yeah, I basically lost to a runner-up in the national. So, and I lost from again. I think I lost from Team Preview. He had all the things that I did not like to see, like the Gengar trap and the men's. And yeah, it's not a good matchup for me.
Well, it's very cool that you made it at least all the way to 4-2. You know, forcing that last contention match. Like, while you say it might not have been very good in team preview, I'm sure your opponent was equally as nervous. Just being that close to make it into the top cut.
Yeah, I heard he went 0-2 and then went 5-2 after. Like, so he won the last 5 games.
So I pulled up 2 German names from the top cut, and it seems like it's either Matthias Suchodolski or Till Bomer. Do you remember which one?
Till Bomer. Yeah.
Till Bomer. All right, cool.
Oh wait. I think I could like remember when I lost Worlds because I was planning to change like one one member. So I had Whimsicott, but I was using a Sash Trick Room one. Like, it's max HP, max defense. Like, it didn't do anything for me other than in round 6 of Swiss day 1. But yeah, like, it's not doing anything for me. So I decided I'm going to change it to the like max speed Life Orb one. But like I fell asleep and then like I forgot, like, and when I was in the venue I remembered, but it worked day 1. So yeah, I didn't change it. Yeah. So yeah, I think in hindsight, Life Orb Whimsy would have been the call with Moonblast, Grassnut, Safeguard, and Encore. Like, no protect. I've been testing that all season, and I think the Sash one was more consistent, so I went with it.
So it looks like the travel finally caught up to you, and I guess falling asleep just before you could change your team ended up affecting your result just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like, there's the butterfly effect, but I think the Life Orb one would have been the call. Definitely.
Yep, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I guess, speaking of other major tournaments, we know Asia Pacific is going to have an international at some point, somewhere. If you had to guess or pick an area for them to hold it, where would you expect that international to be?
I don't think there's any contention that it's going to be in Australia, just because of how many players there are in Australia. Because in Australia nationals, I think there were over 260 compared to 114 in multiple Asian countries. So I think it's definitely going to be in Australia. Yeah, and Singapore is really small, so I don't think it's going to be there.
I think Australia is a pretty safe pick. And do you think you'll end up traveling out to Australia? Or are you going to have to sneak out there, or what's the plan?
Australia is like really down under. Like, it's kind of far. It's an 8-hour flight for me, and US is a 13, like, not like maybe 12-hour flight for me. So it's really far. Yeah. So I don't know if it's worth going to Australia for that. Like, because it's almost going to Worlds. Like, the price, the ticket for that thing, for the plane ticket is almost, yeah, it's close to going to Worlds. But again, if you don't have enough points, that you can't go to Worlds anyway. So if I think I'll have if I like the format, then I'll probably go. And if I don't, like, if someone finds a really good core, like, in the beginning and it's just unbeatable, like, then I probably won't. Like, it depends on my interest in the format, I guess.
Okay, so it really comes down to how motivated you are to get that Worlds invite, because I imagine that Asia Pacific Internationals is going to be pretty pivotal for you to, either make or break get that invite, because there just aren't enough American events that I think you'll be attending.
So I'm attending Fort Wayne and maybe San Jose because my flight leaves in San Francisco. So I think I can delay my flight by a week and go to San Jose. But it depends on if I can get my my team in game.
Well, yeah, it sounds like smart planning on your end, before you head back home. And I guess what's looming for the next format is we're not necessarily going to see the team cores the way they were defined this season. And by that I mean, a lot of times people describe other players here as, this person is a Grout Anzernius player, this is a Ryoga player, this person is dual primals. We're not going to see that type of label on teams anymore. We're going to go back to a more traditional sense of this is a read and react team. So good stuffs you have. This is hardcore trick room. Whereas a lot of the teams this year, didn't necessarily have those labels. They were more, and respectfully so, labeled by their restricted cores, by those two restricteds on their team.
And this is also the first time that we don't have megas like in 3 years. So it's definitely going to be interesting because most people build their teams off the megas or the restricted, but now since there are no megas allowed in the format, it's definitely interesting how people will team build because because when I team build, I just, okay, mega, Kangaskhan, and then like 5 more. Like that's how I team build like for 15 and 16 because it's just too good like not to use. But this season, we don't know what's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be really different for players like you and I who started with megas and have only really played with megas. But for players like Steven, it might give them a bit more of an advantage because Steven has played in past formats where megas weren't a thing. And so, he has an idea of where to start, picking maybe a pair of Pokemon that work together and building around that, or just picking a Pokemon that you think has potential, or maybe you find like a defensive core that's going to be pretty tough to get around. And so that's kind of what we're going to see. Like he mentioned, some hard trick room stuff, or, just picking the 6 most common Pokemon because, they're just good. Stuff like that. It's going to be totally different from this year, and it's going to be a lot different from past years with the disappearance of megas.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I have an advantage. It's just something that I have experience with, building teams without having, a signature Pokemon like a Mega to build around. So, it's just something I'd be able to do, and I kind of have experience with. So I guess maybe it is in a way an advantage.
It's an advantage.
Okay, fine.
Experience equals advantage. Come on.
Well, it never says much in battle, but I guess in terms of team building, I guess I would know how to approach this kind of a format where there's no focal point of a team. What's the word I'm looking for?
Center point?
I don't know, something like that. Whatever. There's no big boss to worry about on each team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess before we Namiel, do you have any last thoughts on the next format coming up before we answer this question?
Well, I think, yeah, it's going to be like, very different from what we have now. And like, I feel like I have to unlearn like everything I learned like this format, if I want to do well in the next format, because that I think this format is very different because it's setting up your restricted, but next format I don't think there's going to be like since there's no mega and restricted, like there's no like main like mon to protect, like if that makes sense. So yeah, I think so those who excelled in this format might not be good in the next format, and those that are bad in this format might be good. So I think it's definitely going to be a change because players can't just click Geomancy and Dark Void anymore to win from turn one, like I did last PC. So yeah, it's definitely going to be different.
Unless everyone's going for those EV strats.
Oh yes, the new EVZ
Protect
move.
the EV.
Yeah, we'll see if that ends up, being a worthwhile strategy or something like that, because you would be wasting your Z item on a EV, and then, EV's probably not going to be doing the offense itself. But, we could talk about Sun and Moon all day long, probably. I guess we should probably move on to this question here.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and phrase it, because, so we can answer this. So the question, it comes from a gang of hippies, and this question is about, how important are perfect IVs for competitive play? And, the situation is, let's say, for example, you don't have enough time to, let's say you're trying to get your last Pokemon on your team in the registration line, and there's maybe an hour left to go now, and you're starting breeding someone, and you can't get the perfect IVs in time. So is it that important for you to have perfect IVs across the board? Do you go for a certain number if you're in that kind of a time crunch? Or do you think just playing the game and not worrying necessarily so much about having perfect IVs and a good EV spread is more important than that? So how do you guys train your teams in that regard?
Oh, I never use non-perfect ones. I always use it. I never went to an event without 31 IVs, except maybe the attack ones for special attackers and for trick room ones, because there's certain situations where your mon would have survived if it had perfect IVs or EVs. So just in Worlds, it came my spread on Bronzong came really clutch. It survived the Precipice Blades from Groudon, and its sassy nature. So if I didn't have perfect IVs or EVs, it would have died. So I would have lost. I would have lost from there. So I think it's important, but in certain situations. But I don't think missing a few IVs will hurt you in the long run. Maybe as a whole, maybe you'll drop a game or two, but I think you can still win even if you don't have complete IVs or EVs, unless you have zero and then the nature is the opposite of what you need. Yeah, I think it depends on how much IVs or EVs you're lacking. I think
I would say that if you we're looking at a certain scenario, let's say you're preparing for a tournament and you only have so much time, maybe you have 3 hours or something like that. I would say that those 3 hours would probably be best spent mostly working on strategy and making sure that you know what you're going to be doing with your team, instead of getting together the perfect Pokemon just because. I would say strategy is just a little bit more important. If you don't know what you're doing with your team, but they're all perfect stats and stuff like that, it's not going to make as big of a difference. And also, I actually heard this once from someone at a Premier Challenge. I can't remember who, but when you look at EV spreads and stuff like that, while it's generally nice to have goals in mind with them, as soon as you take any kind of damage, most of those goals are eradicated unless it's a one-hit KO kind of goal or something like that to prevent a one-hit KO. So while EVs are definitely important, you don't need to worry too much about coming up with the perfect EV spread, because as soon as you take any sort of damage, the goals of that EV spread kind of change, and you're no longer at 100% HP, which is probably what you spent time creating your EV spread for. So I would say strategy is definitely the most important thing, then EV spread, and then IVs. 6th Gen made it pretty reasonable to get together a good set of IVs, get near perfect. That's actually what got me into VGC, was being able to breed my own perfect team. So I think Generation 6 is pretty generous, and who knows, going forward, it's probably going to be even more generous.
Especially with the bottle caps, too, coming up.
Oh, yeah, bottle caps. We're all super excited for the bottle caps, just hoping that they're not too exclusive. Just gotta hope that they're, easily obtainable.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I think you use those ones for legendaries, because I think it's still easier to breed than once you can breed, because you need to get them to a level 100 and then you need to collect all the bottle caps. So I think I'll be reserving those for my legendaries.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, probably the wisest thing to do. And, kind of going back to Nimiel's comment on the perfect IV situation, yes, in a perfect world, you're going to want to have perfect IVs, a complete EV spread, and, have your strategy all intact. But so this, I guess this question is really in the situation where you're in a time crunch for that kind of thing. And what Alex mentioned was really cool, how you're right that once you take damage from something, the EV spread, whatever goal you had in mind, doesn't necessarily play into the picture as much anymore, and all these different games that are happening. So you're right in how, so you have all these great EV spreads and IVs on your team, and you put all these Pokemon together. What good is it going to do if you don't know what to do with that team all put together? You need some kind of strategy.
Yep, so I would say definitely, like, if you're, getting into VGC and, looking to, like, put together a team and start playing, focus mostly on your team, focus mostly what you're going to be doing with that team, and implementing your strategy and winning battles. And if you can't get the perfect EVs or IVs on your Pokemon beforehand, then at least you have the strategy to back you up. And sometimes, those EV spreads and IV spreads don't matter if you just make all the right calls and stuff like that and, play strong.
I'll also add in this is that you don't need to have perfect IVs to do well at a tournament, or, if you're a good enough player, you're going to get through to where you need to, you'll get to where you need to get to. So here is a perfect example is Randy Quah, really great Canadian player. During the 2013 season, he was using his team. I'm pretty sure almost all of them, none of them had perfect IVs on them. They were all, very high, very close to maximum. Some of them are going to have 31s in the correct stats where they need them, like speed, something like that. But he won a regional that season. He got top 4 at nationals that season. And then, maybe 18th place at Worlds, I think was the number, something like that. So, that right there goes to show you don't need to have perfect IVs to have a successful season and go deep in tournaments. You just, like we've been mentioning these past few minutes, is have a good team, have a good strategy, know what you're doing.
Oh, and did you hear the guy who got in Top Cut Worlds was using a Hardy Groudon or something, like a neutral natured one?
I think Sirius Groudon Top Cut Worlds.
Yes, Sirius, yes. Yeah,
Sirius Groudon did Top Cut Worlds, I believe.
Right. And I guess with your point there is he didn't have the right nature to be optimizing all his stats on the Groudon, but that's just showing you right there that you don't necessarily need your stats to be perfect. You want your play to be perfect. So that will just about do it for this week's show. It was fantastic having Nimiel on, our first international guest too, really. So that was really cool. We're wishing you the best of luck the rest of this season here in America. And, if you head back home, we're wishing you the best of luck in the Asia Pacific circuit, hoping you get to travel to some more events out there. Thank you so much for being on, and we hope to see you again at Worlds, because we know you have a lot of potential, Nimiel.
Thank you.
Yep, and we'll hope to see you maybe at a couple more events here in America before you do head home. So, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, you guys heard Nimiel is likely going to Fort Wayne, so if you get a chance, you have an international player here from the Philippines, go talk to him, go say hi. It'd be great to meet someone from a different region too, different continent. And I guess with that, we're going to head out of here. You guys can find us on iTunes. Just search for the Hypervoice. We will pop up somewhere in there. Add in Pokemon if you need to. We have an email for the show. Send us your feedback, your questions to vgchypervoice@gmail.com. And lastly, we're going to spit out all our Twitter handles. Nimiel, are you on Twitter? And what is your, where can people follow you?
So I'm Laymin VGC on Twitter. So Leimin VGC. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. So, guys, make sure to give Nimiel a follow. Really skilled player, obviously, from this past year's results. We'll see what next year brings us. Alex, people can follow you at
Super Morioka.
Ooh,
tricky.
tricky.
I mean at Lexicon VGC.
Right, yeah. Mix them up there.
Whoops,
See, now no one's gonna know who's who.
Well, just follow both for the hyper voice. If you want all the hyper voice info, I don't tweet often. I don't think I have tweeted really much anything since we've started the hyper voice besides, announcing when the episodes are. So, if you really want just episode updates, that's what you'll expect to get from me.
That's what you get from Alex. Why haven't you tweeted stuff? What's going on?
I just, I have other priorities. I play a lot of Rocket League.
Rocket League. All right.
And so, Steven, where can people follow you?
At Super Morioka. So, I guess that will do it. Everyone, I guess we can say goodbye then.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, guys. Bye. We'll see you for more Hyper Voice next time.